Hello all, welcome to this new lesson. In the previous lesson, we discussed about type conversions in C language. And in this lesson, let us see a few good programming practices that needs to be followed while writing code in C language. Having said that, you must know that there are hundreds of rules and conventions that needs to be followed while writing code in C programming. But discussing all of those rules in one lesson becomes quite difficult. And that is the reason I've only picked up few basic programming practices that one has to follow while he is initially starting to learn how to code. Okay, so in this lesson I've only given few basic programming practices, and once we proceed further with the upcoming lessons I would be discussing the advanced ones whenever necessary, then and there itself. Okay, so having said that, let's get started. So the first one is that maintain proper comments wherever necessary. So this is the first suggestion that I keep giving to all my students, okay, when they initially start to learn how to code, right? So understand this fact that professional programmers are not those who write code. Rather, professional programmers are those who write readable code. Okay, so for every programmer, writing readable code must be of utmost importance. Okay, so and the only way to improve the readability of your code is by maintaining proper comments, or one of the ways, okay, one of the important ways to improve the readability of your code is by maintaining proper comment lines. Okay, so if suppose you write the code today, okay, and you quit the project or you quit the company and go to some other company, and there is always someone who is replacing you in your older company, isn't it? In that case, when a new person comes and replaces your position, okay, he must be able to understand what you have written in your code, right? So for that reason, you must know how to write and how to maintain proper comments. Okay, so comment lines or comments plays a very important, a very major role in every programmer's life. Okay, and the major use of writing comment lines is to improve the readability of your code. Okay, so for example, as you can see in the example that I've given you on the screen, okay, I have written two comment lines over here, and one is to introduce this entire program to the person who is actually reading it. Okay, so if someone comes and reads this code, he will be able to easily understand that this program is written to add two numbers. Okay, and one more place where I've added a comment line is that, in the place where the core logic is involved. Okay, so this is the line where I'm adding two numbers, and that is the reason I've just added a comment line saying adding two numbers. Okay, so I don't say that clog your entire program with comment lines, okay, but rather you must be able to add comment lines, okay, wherever you think there would be a kind of confusion for the reader. Okay, so having said that, please keep this in mind that writing code is not important, but writing readable code is very important, and only then you will become a professional programmer. And to help you, okay, write code that is more readable, then you have to maintain proper comments. Okay, so that is the first good practice that you need to follow as a beginner, right? Now let's see what is the second one. The second one is maintain proper indentation. Okay, so this is the second way in which you can actually improve the readability of your code. Okay, now what do you mean by indentation? Okay, indentation includes writing proper, or including proper spaces wherever needed. Okay, so as you can see, whenever I will start or begin a new block of statement, I make sure that there would be a tab space. So there would be a tab space so that it indicates a new block. Okay, also while declaring variables, I will make sure that there is a space after the comma. Okay, so if I'm declaring multiple variables in one line, then those, okay, variables would be separated with a comma and a space. Okay, so that I can easily differentiate or count how many variables has been defined or declared. That is one thing. And as you can see that on the left hand side and the right hand side of every operator, I make sure that there would be a space. Okay, so that it is more readable. As you can see, there is a space on the left hand side and right hand side of plus operator. There is a space on the left hand side and the right hand side of your equal to operator, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the other way in which you can maintain good indentation. Also, as you can see that I have given one line gap, okay, one line gap after every contextual statements. Okay, so it means that, okay, so I have given a gap after a declaration statement which says that declaration of the variables are over. Then I've given a line gap after taking a printf and scanf. It means that I've taken the input and scanf, so I'm grouping these as one contextual statements. and also I give a line gap, after the executable statement, which says that one of the work is completed over here, and then again a printf, okay, and then I continue with the printf, right? So as you can see over here, the code is well maintained, well indented, okay, and when your code is well indented, okay, then it becomes more maintainable, right? So this is called as indentation. As you can see, I've also given one line gap over here to indicate that all the header file section is over and I'm starting with the main program section, right? So this is called as proper indentation. So indentation refers to writing or including proper spaces wherever needed to make the code look neater, okay, and clean, so that it is more maintainable. So this is the second good practice that I suggest to all my students. Okay, so having said that, the first one is the comment lines, and the second one is indentation. Both will help in improving the readability of your code, and when if your code is more readable, it means that your code would be more maintainable also. Okay, now let's see what is the next one. The next one is that do not clog your code with unwanted header files. Okay, so I've seen a lot of beginners, okay, who think that you have to include so many header files in your program to make your program work, and it is because they don't understand the meaning of header files, or they don't understand why header files are actually included, right? So let me tell you, first of all, that header files contains the prototypes needed for your built-in functions. Okay, and for example, stdio.h contains the function prototypes for printf and scanf. Okay, and in this program I have used printf and scanf. Okay, so again a printf, and that is the reason I only need stdio.h as part of this code. Okay, I don't need stdlib.h, math.h, or string.h. These are not needed, and by writing unwanted header files, or by including unwanted header files in my code, what happens is unnecessarily the program size increases. When the source code size increases, the executable file size increases, and when the executable file size increases, the memory required on the RAM increases, and when the memory on the RAM increases, the performance of your application will come down, right? So that is the reason, don't include any kind of unwanted header files, right? So add header files only when it is needed, and remove all your unwanted header files from your code, and make your code look neater, and declutter your code from unwanted source lines of code. Okay, so having said that, this is the one more thing which I would like to watch, which I wanted to tell you. Okay, next let us see what is there as the next practice. And yes, this is again a very important practice that you need to follow right from the beginning stage of your programming career. Give readable and understandable names to identifiers. Okay, if suppose you want to add two numbers, right, then you will have to give the variable names as num1, num2, okay, or something which is more readable and understandable. I've seen few students who actually give the names as int a comma b comma c, which has no meaning, or it gives us absolutely no meaning, right? So when you say, when you compare this int a comma b comma c with num1, num2, and sum, it easily indicates that you are using a value 1, or you are working with two numbers called as num1 and num2, and after adding two numbers, you are actually storing the result in another variable called as sum. Okay, so the variable sum itself indicates that, okay, this will contain the sum of adding few numbers. Okay, so that is why this code is more again readable. Even writing readable and understandable names even makes your code more readable, and this is one of the good programming practice that you need to follow. Okay, it is not just the variable names. Okay, so that is the reason I've just called it as identifiers. Even this will include your structure names, it could include your function names, okay, or even the variable names. Okay, so whenever you are giving names to any elements in your C program, make sure that you give some meaningful and understandable and, okay, relatable names to it, right, rather than just giving some arbitrary names like this. Okay, so this is not a right way to write names for your variables, or give names for your variables, right? So this is one more good practice that you need to follow right from the starting stage of your programming career. Okay, and then we have the more important one, or the most important one: write generic code. Okay, it means try not to hard code values, right? So let me first show you the bad method. Okay, so in this method I have actually written a program to add two numbers, and as you can see that this program can add only 5 and 6, right? This code has the capability or the capacity to add only two numbers, okay, 5 and 6. As you can see, the numbers are hard coded. Num1 is equal to 5 and num2 is equal to 6. So this code is of no use, because this code will not, using this code you will not be able to add, okay, two other numbers, right? If suppose I want to add 7 and 9, then this code will not work, right? So you will have to open this code, change the values of 5 and 6 to 7 and 9, and only then recompile this code and then run the code once again, right? So such kind of code where you hard code values, okay, are called as, unprofessional code. They are called as bad method of writing code, right? So rather, you must always write code in such a way that, okay, it would be very generic. It means it doesn't depend on only one particular kind of input. So as you can see over here, I have not hard coded values. Rather, I am trying to take the values through the keyboard using scanf. Okay, so it means that this program can add any two numbers that the user gives us input to this program. Okay, it is not just adding 5 or 6 or 7 or 9 or something like that. Rather, it can add any two numbers given as input to this program. Okay, so I don't say that this is the best method of writing the code. Okay, but I'm just trying to tell you that this is a good method, and I just wanted to give you an example, or I wanted to give you a comparison between how a generic code will look like and how a non-generic code will look like. Okay, so don't use this method. This is a bad method. Rather, always write generic method. Okay, so generic code says that your code doesn't, okay, hard code values, and it will work for any given values, okay, as input. Right, so this is one of the good practice that again you will have to follow, and this comes, this comes to you as a second nature once you start practicing more and more programs. Okay, so now having said that, let me give you the final good practice that you need to follow. Always write modular code while using functions, right? So whenever you are writing code, don't make, okay, your program to be a monolithic code. It means don't write all the activities in one particular function. Rather, divide your program into modules. Okay, so give specific functionalities to a specific particular module. Okay, and for example, as you can see in this, I want to find the area of a circle. Rather than writing the code for area of a circle in the main function, I have divided that and I've assigned the task of finding the area of a circle to a separate function called as area of circle. And after figuring out the area of a circle, this function will give the result to the main function. It means I am dividing a code into multiple modules so that each module will take care of a specific functionality, right? So this is called as modular programming. And by writing modular programming, you can drastically improve the performance of your code. And also even this improves your maintainability of your code. Okay, so by dividing your program into functions, what happens is that you don't, if suppose there is a problem with one module, you don't need to actually change the complete program. Rather, you can only fix the problem in that module, and then you can add that back into your library and stuffs like that. So having said that, always make sure that you have to give more priority to writing modular code, and for that you will have to make use of functions. I understand that I have not discussed functions yet in this programming series, but that would be I would be teaching functions in 2 or 3 videos down the line. Okay, so I just gave you some good practice so that your mind is occupied with all these good practices. Okay, so as a quick recap, okay, the first one is maintain proper comments wherever necessary, and maintain proper indentation, okay, by giving proper spaces wherever needed. And then do not clog your code with unwanted header files. Use header files only when needed. And then give proper readable and understandable names to your variables, function names, structure names, and all kinds of identifiers. And don't write hard coded code, or don't use hard coded values in your code. Avoid hard coding values whenever necessary. Okay, and then try to write as much as possible generic code, okay, which doesn't depend on any specific hard coded value. Okay, now then write modular code using functions. Okay, so that your code is not monolithic, and it is modular, more modular, and assign specific functionalities to a specific module. Okay, so having said that, hope you enjoyed this lesson. Hope you learned how to write good code. Hope you learned few good practices that you need to follow while writing code. There are more several such practices which I would be discussing in the upcoming lessons. Okay, and in the next lesson I would actually write few programs to help you understand how to really write program using logic tracing method. Okay, so how to write code by making less errors. Okay, so having said that, if you have liked this lesson, then don't forget to like this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any kind of updates on my upcoming lessons in this programming series. Okay, so having said that, meet you in the next lesson. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Love you all so much.